theatre piece.
Talk to me about Rutland Weekend Television.
Oh, Rutland Weekend. Well, I discovered recently that because of this wonderful publication called the Doodah Diaries, which a man called David Christie has been compiling since Moses was a lad. I mean, he's obviously a fan, but he's much more than that. When I went on the road finally with a latter day version of the Bonzos, much later on, this is because of the Bonzo Dog Doodah Band. That's why it's the Doodah Diaries. Anyway, the reason I mentioned the Doodah Diaries is to big up the Doodah Diaries, which is the most extraordinary in-depth piece of sort of fan writing. Well, it's more than that. I mean, it's a really in-depth chronology of everything anybody associated with the original Bonzo Dog Band was involved with. But from that, I know that the Rutland Weekend Television took place in 1975. My involvement with Rutland Weekend Television. Neil, I was working with Neil because of Grimm's in 75, and he told me about this series and that he'd cooked it up with Eric Idle, and it was a chance to sort of do anything, but the premise of the thing was that it was obviously based on London Weekend Television, but the idea was that because the budget, the BBC had given a very small amount of money to Eric to produce a series. Eric had gone to Neil and said, will you do the music? We'll do blah-de-blah. But the premise is that we are the smallest, cheapest television station in the country, and it's Rutland Weekend Television. And that's the basis that we'll proceed from. So I was involved with the first series, which everybody remembers Rutland Weekend for the Rutles, probably. That's the most enduring thing that came out of it. This was just a sketch show a la Python, and there were lots of interesting stuff in there, which is detailed in the Doodah Diary that's just come out, which is the year 1975, broken down by Bonzo member. And for Neil, it's got episode by episode stuff, so I can see what I did. It looks like I worked on 3 episodes. One of them I was the presenter, and I remember that very well because that week I was literally in the rehearsal room in Acton just to rehearse musical numbers, and I think that week there was certainly one musical segment was called the Old Gay Whistle Test, and I played various bits and pieces. I was in a band called Toad the Wet Sprocket, which was a very bad prog rock band, and I also played Arthur Fitch, the All Dead pop star. That's on YouTube. You can find or was it Stan Fitch? Maybe it was Stan Fitch, I think.
Wow, yeah, certainly. Well, next on Whistle Test I have with me Stan Fitch, the first All Dead singer. Stan, welcome to Whistle Test. Yeah, right. Well, now Stan's going to do a number for us off his next album called Even Further Beyond the Grave. Yeah, be a long time before we hear anything as good as that on Whistle Test.
The All Dead pop. So I'm basically it was aping the style of the old Grey Whistle Test. Obviously, it had slight sort of Top of the Pops carol work and stuff like that. But the idea was that Eric played Bob Harris and interviewed me when I was dead. I was just made up white and completely immobile in a chair, and he's interviewing me about my latest album and all this. And then I sing a song, because I don't sing at all, I'm dead. They put a guitar onto the body and I'm there, and there's lots of very, very flashy camera work and, you know, all the sort of CSO and you know, effects, and I'm just there, and at the end of it says, right, great. It cuts away. And there was a lot of other stuff as well. And we also did a Batman and Robin sketch, but during the course of that week of me stooging about waiting to rehearse these things, Ian Keel, who was the producer, said, Andy, come over here. He said, we don't have anybody in mind for being the presenter this week. Will you do it? And we're back to never say no. I mean, I'm not an actor, and I got to say, I didn't do a terribly good job. I'm pretty stilted on this thing, but, you know, yeah, why not? So I was made up with a short wig and a little goatee beard and all of that, and I was the presenter for...
Hello, and a very, 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 very warm welcome to Rutland Weekend Television. Yvonne Mitchell would like it to be made clear that she is not related to Simon Pribble, the official god of BBC Two. However, she will be appearing soon on BBC Two, so please watch out for her. Meanwhile, here on Rutland Weekend Television, it's just coming up to my knees, and time once again for Thrust.
Daddy went off to work about 7:30. Put on his overalls and his working gloves. He said United drew again to his cousin Harry, and read a magazine about crime and secret love. And if it all sounds boring, if it all sounds boring, if it all sounds boring, then there's something wrong with the song. Mama went down the hill to the supermarket. She brought back groceries in a carrier bag. Then she hung up a coat and then she put on the kettle. Sat down with a cup of tea and lit a fag. And if it all sounds boring, if it all sounds boring, if it all sounds boring, then there's something wrong with the song or you. On a concrete playground, and answered yes miss when they called his name. Auntie Mary rearranged the mantelpieces and sucked a peppermint before the rent man came. And if it all sounds boring, if it all sounds boring, if it all sounds boring, then there's something wrong with the song. Or you, or me, or something.
London Weekend or Rutland Weekend Television that week. So there were 3 episodes, I think, through that series that did. But then what happened was they did a second series. I was not involved with that. I can't remember what year that was. This was done in 75, so it might have been the year after. Might have been in 76. I don't know. I mean, it could be that they were doing the second series of that when I was off working with the remnant of Grimm's with Victoria, and, you know, it could have been done at the same period. Sometimes there might have been a clash. Maybe I wasn't asked. I don't know. But it was the second series that produced the original single song sketch, which is called I Must Be in Love, which was shot in the Dick Lester style, black and white, looked like Hard Day's Night, and the band credit was the Rutles, not the Beatles, you know, even though it was totally Beatlesque in its style. And from that, when Rutland Weekend Television was taken by Eric over and shown to Lorne Michaels, who's the producer in charge of Saturday Night Live in New York, Lorne homed in on that, said it was really good. If I give you the money, why don't you make an entire Rutles film? and that was the provenance for All You Need Is Cash, which is the original wonderful 1 hour Rutles special. And then Neil, of course, had to go away and write 20 songs, you know. And there's a whole saga, and that'll all be told in the Doodah Diaries, I'm sure, when we get there.
But you had nothing to do.
I had nothing to do with the original Rutles.
Right.
I am a subsequent Rutle, and I've sung Rutles songs. I've toured with Neil as the Rutles. I've done Rutles work, but the original Rutles was John Halsey's band, Fatso, with Billy Bremner, Roger Rettig, John on drums. Can't remember who the bass player was. But anyway, that I was not involved. And then when they made the album, it was Eric slightly involved, but it was basically Neil Innes, Ollie Halsall, wonderful on guitar, Ricky Fattar, and John Halsey playing the immortal Barrington Womble, or Barry Womble.